thank you very much for attending. It's good to be back here at County Hall, our first meeting at County Hall, if not in the chamber, for some time. So item 1 on the agenda is apologies for absence. Do we have apologies for Karen? Would you like to read them out? Do we have any from the floor? I cannot see any hands, so what I will do is I'll go to the next item on the agenda, which is minutes of the past meeting, minutes of the annual meeting of County Council held on Wednesday the 26th of May 2021, circulate to be confirmed as a true record and signed by the business chair. And that's page 9 to 22, and I have Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. The point of this is just obviously moving forward procedurally. As set out on page 11 of the minutes, there was a discussion that took place about whether we could debate the election of the new council leader. Legal advice was taken that it was a normal motion, but then a motion was taken to put the question straight to members. If we could just draw your attention to page 100 of the Constitution, and it does refer to a closure motion, but it says if the chair thinks that the item has been sufficiently discussed. Now, obviously, you wouldn't automatically think it's a normal motion, so I don't want to make too big a deal of it, but I just want some reassurance moving forward that if a motion came up, that we would be able to discuss it properly, and the chair would not take an immediate closure motion to shut down the debate. And perhaps it would be something, just to get clarification, maybe something to put on the Constitutional Working Group agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. Thank you also for tipping me off in the corridor you was going to ask this question, so it's given me some thinking time. Essentially, what I did at the meeting was take legal advice as to whether the question could be put. I would state that nearly every time I've been at a meeting where the leader has been decided, we haven't had a debate or much to, other than to nod that through. So I took that on that basis to continue on doing it in that fashion, particularly as Councillor Jackson had asked that the question be put. I do take your points. It may be something well worth discussing in the future. Thank you very much. Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you, Chair. Just in reference to page 20 of the minutes, I referenced the large number of complaints and outstanding issues that were rolling forward into the new council, and the leader agreed that he was seeking the position but wasn't sure at the time. I was a bit disappointed to note that the Standards Committee's been cancelled and members told not to come, and given we've got such significant issues to deal with, I wondered if we could have an answer why that was.
I'm quite happy to answer that myself. On a normal committee, it would normally come to me that, and you'll know from your time in the chair whether to cancel a meeting or not. That was not put to me. Given that as an independent chair, I think it was only right that if the independent chair wished to cancel that meeting, I'm happy that that went ahead without my say-so, but I'm quite happy to be guided by them. I don't know if there's any further legal comment on that at all.
Is it possible to seek clarification from the independent chair as to why it was cancelled when there's a large number of business?
I'm happy for that, yes, but Councillor Wearmouth has his hand up as well.
Thank you, Chair. It was cancelled due to lack of business, was what I saw on it, but maybe you'll correct me if I'm wrong.
I will get that. I will send an email to the chairman of that committee and ask for the detailed information. Thank you, Scott. Does anyone else have their hand up? It's difficult to see, so I do apologise. Councillor Dickinson again.
Sorry, Chair. It's just in relation to page 22, item 17, where I referred the leader to Councillor Heppel's request about the support in place for the Chief Executive and asked if it could be shared with me.
George.
Well, I would look to Jackie for that. Where's Jackie? Is Jackie here? Is that being dealt with, Jackie? Sorry. Yeah. Apparently being dealt with.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Is there anyone else? I'm looking through post office counters here, so I sometimes miss things. Okay, on that basis, I'll move on to the next item of the agenda, which is disclosure of members' interests. Right, Councillor Grimshaw.
Thank you. Yes, Chair, thank you. Yes, I've got to declare an interest on item number 12 on the agenda, and I don't know if you want me to leave the room, Chair, or just not, or just sit here and not participate, obviously. Maybe better to speak to a legal advisor on that one, because I don't know your exact declaration.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I think to adopt kind of a cautious approach, it would be sensible for the member to leave the room.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more declarations of interest there? Bear with me, I'm scanning my eyes. I can't see any. So I'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is announcements. Well, first it's announcements from me, and this is Her Majesty the Queen's birthday honours list for those particularly connected to Northumberland. The Order of the British Empire, Officers of the Order of the British Empire, brackets OBE, that has been awarded to Charles Anthony Elliott Braithwaite for political services to the North East of England. He's of Hexham. To Professor Suzanne Chollerton, Pro-Vice-Chancellor, Newcastle University, for services to higher education, and she's from Morpeth. To Timothy Charles Wilbond, DL, Vice-Chairman, North of England Reserves Forces and Cadets Association, for services to the Reserve Forces and Cadets Association. He's from Morpeth. Members of the Order of the British Empire, brackets MBE, Stephen Anthony Ball, for services to Rugby League charities. He is from Hexham. Robert Henry Mole, for services to the community in Hexham, Northumberland, and he's from Hexham. Josephine Sanderson, Finance and Business Support Manager, Forestry England, for services to forestry, and she is from Hexham, and leader tells me no relation. Yeah. Okay, so our heartfelt congratulations to all those people from Northumberland for those well-deserved honours, I'm sure. I've also got an announcement from Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you very much. I hope you don't mind if I stay sitting, but I'm happy to stand if you prefer that, if you can't hear me. I just wanted to touch on a couple of quick things, if I may. First of all, I'm sure all of you will share your absolute delight at the announcement yesterday that British Volt received their planning permission to go ahead with this fantastic site, the Giga plant, which will ultimately provide up to 3,000 jobs, and then later on more than that. And I think the key thing is it will encourage new businesses similar to that to come to our county. I'm hugely proud of this. It is a game changer. It is a once in a lifetime move. I've been in touch with British Volt, but I'd also like to formally and publicly say now thank you very much to Advance for a lot of the prep work that they did on this, and to Rob Murphy and his planning team who've come in for some huge praise for the speed and the efficiency in which this work has been carried out. We do have a fantastic staff across the council, but this was a particularly good example of us working together and working well. Secondly, we are, as an administration, working on our new corporate plan. Our plan for the future is to help take Northumberland out of the shadows of COVID, to make it a stronger place by investing more in business and being proactive in seeking out new jobs, but also, at the same time, looking after those people who need our help the most. We still have big issues around health inequalities, fuel poverty and child poverty. So that will be a key priority for us as well. So we're pulling all of these together with officers, and we will come to you as a council with our plans in the autumn. We have got a question later on about East Coast Main Line, but I do need to just say to you that we are having, we're going to have a battle on this one, but I'll tell you about that when we get to the questions. The other issue that we may have a bit of a problem around is Northumbria Police's wish to reduce the opening hours of some of their police stations. That is just newly in, and we are looking at it now. But I know, for example, that Councillor Stewart is particularly worried in Prudhoe about the effect that might have, and it could be that some of you will have exactly those concerns. So we will look at that together. And then finally, I just wanted to touch base with you around the new conversations going on around a larger mayoral area called the LA7. Now, you know that we deal with the LA7, and we have done over COVID, and the relationships are good, and we work well together cross-party. The government seem very keen on enlarging the area that we are currently in, which is the combined authority, including North Tyneside, Newcastle, and ourselves, which I personally thinks works really well, to this new larger mayoral authority. We had a discussion about this last week, and I made it clear that I felt we should continue those discussions, but I will not commit Northumberland County Council to join a larger area until we have had a full discussion in council, because I think it involves all members. So I want to have that discussion, hopefully in September if we're at that stage. If not in September, then if necessary, a specially called council, because I do want all members to have a say on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Item 5 on the agenda is correspondence. I don't have any correspondence.
Chair, sorry to interject. It might be sensible to ask members just to confirm that the minutes of the council meeting were
Okay, yes.
confirmed as a true record.
As ever, I'm getting carried away with me. Can we confirm that the minutes on item 2, pages 9 to 22, are confirmed as a true record? Thank you very much. Thank you for keeping me right. So I go to questions, point 6, to be put to the business chair. And question 1 is from Councillor Hunter to the leader.
Thank you, Chair. I know I'm speaking on behalf of Berwick, but it does affect the many other stations in Northumberland. Please can the leader give me assurance that Northumberland County Council will respond to the current consultation on the 2022 LNER timetable and support the residents of Berwick and the surrounding area by opposing the proposals, which would mean there would be following reduction of East Coast trains stopping in Berwick. 72 trains a week, 288 trains a month, 3,744 trains a year. Berwick Station is a well-used station by residents and visitors for a variety of reasons, including commuting, business, hospital appointments and pleasure. The reduction of the trains stopping in Berwick will increase the carbon footprint, which goes against the proposals to reduce carbon emissions. This also goes against the work by Senrug and Rages and pressure groups to reopen small stations and platforms along the East Coast Line, which were closed in the past. Nationally, they are saying people are not using trains are at a record low. Therefore, if less trains are going to stop in Berwick on Tweed, then less passengers will be able to use the service. Therefore, I request Northumberland County Council response to the consultation before it closes on the 5th of August, and I also ask that the appropriate scrutiny committee urgently considers the current LNER timetable for 2022 consultation, as the changes will have a detrimental impact for Northumberland residents and visitors. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor, for that question. It's very appropriate that you raise it here, because this is a significant step backwards as far as we are concerned. Basically, there are 4 different operators all doing a consultation at the same time, but it looks like it's just one consultation until you get into the meat of it. And actually what this is about is shaving a few minutes off the journey time from London to the north, and so encouraging more people to use a quicker train. But to do that, because of the inadequacies of the East Coast Main Line as it is now, that means taking slower trains off the track. And that would be a hugely backward step, because we've made great progress in recent years in encouraging more train operators to use stations like Berwick and Morpeth, and more people are using those stations. And you are correct, it is environmentally a significant step back. So I've made my position very clear on behalf of the council so far. I've written to all the MPs in a very straightforward way. I'm writing to the Secretary of State for Transport, Department of Transport, and our other partners, including the Joint Transport Committee, who are very supportive of the line that we are taking. So basically, what I would say is that we need to encourage this consultation to put everything on hold until such time as we've had a thorough look at the East Coast Main Line and try and resolve some of those issues that slow those trains down so that the track can move quicker. And we have Nexus and others involved in pushing for that as well. So altogether, there is a very strong degree of opposition. And I can assure you that we will continue to oppose any move to reduce commuter trains from Berwick or Morpeth or anywhere else for that matter. So I'm very grateful to you for bringing that up. And as far as scrutiny is concerned, I'd be more than happy if the chairman of that, chairperson of that committee wants to take it up. That would be absolutely fine.
Okay, supplementary, Councillor Hunter.
Just to say thank you for the support, and hopefully that everybody will respond to the consultation as well and keep it in the front of the headlines. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question 2 is from Councillor Bridget, who isn't here, to the leader. Do you wish to answer that?
Yes, I can answer the question, which is there has been a move to suggest that Newcastle Airport becomes Newcastle and Sunderland, or Sunderland and Newcastle Airport. That's something that I am not particularly in favour of, and so my own vote in this, as a part of the LA holding of the airport, would be to not agree with that.
Thank you for that. And question 3 is from... Yeah, well, that's fine. I think the chair wouldn't answer it. I think Councillor Bridget wanted to move to the next meeting, but I have to say I think Councillor Sanderson was happy to answer that question now.
I'm more than happy to wait until he comes along and we can do it together.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm sure he may be watching online. Question 3 from Councillor Bridget to the leader.
That's that one. Yeah.
Do you want to take that one in a future meeting, did you?
Future meeting, yeah.
That's okay. So Councillor Bridget can look forward to that next time.
Yeah.
Question 4 is from Councillor Kennedy to the leader.
Thank you, Chair. On being elected of the County Council, Councillor Sanderson stated that public toilet facilities would be one of the County Council's priorities. Therefore, can I ask, can the Hexham public facilities be one of those priorities, please? In particular, the toilets at the Seal Park are in a poor state of repair and are in need of refurbishment, and those behind the Queen's Hall have been left boarded up and abandoned and unused for some time. Do you agree that these are a priority, and if so, can the Hexham public expect some action, please? I would like to invite you on an inspection tour of the facilities with me if you would like to come.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kennedy. I think what I would like to do is, just by way of context, just state that up and down the country, councils have been closing toilets. We've taken a very different approach to that. We think public toilets are very important. In fact, they're not a luxury, they're a necessity, and they're every part, and they should be every part of a community as streetlights and pavements. And that's why we embarked on a significant investment programme on some of our larger, most used ones. For example, Holy Island, Sea Houses and Bamborough have all had significant amounts of money spent on them, and that's included facilities for people with disabilities to make them more easy to use. One thing that I was very pleased about was that we managed to get included in last year's budget £1 million of new money on top of what we already spend on public toilets. And that new money will be placed in key areas to upgrade and to improve public toilets, so people don't need to feel embarrassed to ask where a public toilet is, that many people find a problem at the moment. So I've asked officers to put together a plan of action, and that will be led by Councillor John Riddle, who leads on local services for us, and we'll come back to you as a council on that. So far as Hexham itself is concerned, I am aware that Hexham Town Council have had a number of meetings with Northumberland County Council officers, and I think those meetings have been useful, and I want them to continue. And I do know that Councillor Trevor Sesford has raised this matter already with Councillor Riddle as the respective portfolio holder. So these matters are being dealt with, and I'm grateful to you and also to Councillor Sesford for raising this earlier with John Riddle, and it's something that we will be looking at. Yes, we will look at those.
Thank you. Supplementary, Councillor Kennedy.
Well, I'll just like to ask Glenn, this isn't me supplementary, it's just me, still my first question. So the first question was, like, would you like to come for an inspection of the toilets with me? You don't get any better offer than that, Glenn.
I would be delighted. Thank you.
Well, that's wonderful. So yeah, my supplementary is, well, thank you. Hexham Town Council held its first ever event in the marketplace, where we invited members of the public to come and see us at the Saturday Farmers Market, and that was repeatedly brought up as one was about the integrity of those toilets, people do use them, and you're absolutely right, and I'm really pleased that you've said all the things you have about you see that as a priority and that you're going to put investment in, and so we would welcome that for Hexham. I mean, particularly, when we go for the tour, Glenn, I will be taking you to show you the toilet that's behind the Queen's Hall, which has just been boarded up and abandoned, and just what is the action on that is my question to you, is just leaving it boarded up and abandoned is not a plan. It's just been left.
I think Councillor Sesford has his hand up as point of order. Yes.
Well, if that's all right, Chair, I'm happy to talk a little bit about that. I mean, for the last few years, we've been having discussions with the County Council, and all of these have been minuted and available for all councillors to read if they ever want to read them. We've also had separate meetings specifically about the toilets. They've also been minuted, and they've also been reported at the full councils. So I'm a little bit surprised that Councillor Kennedy doesn't actually know what's been going on.
Well, I think I do know what's been going on.
I'm actually talking now, if you don't mind.
Well, nothing's been going on.
Talking.
Yeah, I think we're getting into debate here a little bit. So, okay.
Councillor Kennedy has mentioned the toilets.
Yeah. I'm afraid, Trevor, thank you very much for coming in. I'm going to have to cut you off there. It is a question to.
Incorrect statement by Councillor Kennedy.
Okay, well, I note your point of order. Yeah.
For a point of order, that wasn't an incorrect statement. The question was to the leader about the state of those toilets just being left for many years, abandoned.
Sorry. And my answer, Derek, is that I'll have a look at them with you.
Thank you.
Probably with John Riddle, but my understanding is there has been significant dialogue already about them, but I'm not an expert, haven't seen them, so we'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kennedy to Councillor Horncastle, please.
Thank you. Yeah, so just so it's clear, this question is to Councillor Horncastle, not to any other councillor in this meeting. Thank you. Northumbria Police. Sorry, I'm just being interrupted here, Mr.
Can we just have some order? If you're asking a question, can you ask a question? If you're answering the question, can the person being questioned answer the question? And can we continue in that fashion? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, so the councillor, the question is to Councillor Horncastle only, nobody else, please. Northumbria Police own 10 properties at Fairfield, Hexham. These 3- and 4-bedroom properties have been abandoned for a long time and a total waste of housing to Hexham families. I invited the police commissioner to meet me at the site in 2020, but this invitation was unfortunately not accepted. I was hoping, would it be possible for the County Council to exert some pressure onto Northumberland Police so elected officials can meet at this site and discuss a way forward. In particular, I'm thinking myself, the newly elected Councillor Horncastle, who's now got that cabinet position, and the police commissioner. I am aware of officers of the police and county council are discussing matters, but the pace is rather pedestrian.
Okay, Councillor Horncastle.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Yes, I can confirm that the County Council is in discussions with the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner concerning the acquisition of the site for housing. But at this time, those discussions are classed as commercially sensitive and it will not be appropriate to comment further. However, personally, I would like to actually, agree with everything this council and yourself are trying to do here. I mean, it's rather bizarre that there's 10 houses in a prime location in Hexham standing empty, have been standing empty for some time. Now, the previous portfolio holder, Councillor Riddle, has been heavily involved behind the scenes, but what we've got to remember, Derek, is that unfortunately, at present, this is it's not in our control because they actually belong to the Northumbria Police and their property portfolio. But if I've got anything else I can add to it after speaking to officers about this, that I can alert you to, but remember, it's been classed as commercially sensitive, I will do.
Well,
thank you. Supplementary, Councillor Kennedy.
Yeah, I would just like to thank Councillor Horncastle for that, and that's really appreciated. Well, what I intend to do, Councillor Horncastle, with your grace, is I'll write to the elected official of Northumbria Police, the police commissioner, and I'd also write to yourself and invite you both to a site visit, if that's appropriate, and let's see if we can start some conversation going on that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Derek.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Question 6 is from Councillor Taylor to Councillor Wearmouth. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. Hello, Councillor Wearmouth. I spoke to you on the last full council meeting to ask for updates to on the Bedlington redevelopment site. You agreed to have updates sent to me. Unfortunately, that's failed, didn't get any. I had to see the updates via social media from our other Bedlington councillor, which was really disappointing. But I've been in touch with Advance myself and I've set up a one-way system. Hopefully they'll come out and I'll see them in future. But my question relates also to the Bedlington Town Centre, and it relates particularly to the funding on the development. So can I ask to have a breakdown of all of the funding that we've had over the past 8 years, which will go right back, so I can see what was set up? I didn't ask for it in my question for 8 years, but I need 8 years because I need to go right back. For the funding allocations for the Bedlington Town Centre redevelopment, how we've arrived at the current figures, because I can't work it out. So I don't know what was the original figure to start with, what's been taken out and what payments have been made. But if you could send me that, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Councillor Wearmouth.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Officers had prepared some data to answer your question, but obviously your question is slightly different in terms of how it's focused.
And the timescales.
And the timescales. So what I'll do, rather than read the comments here, which probably reflect to a degree the comments that I made at the last meeting as well, that I'll ask officers to provide that information to you, and if perhaps if Karen could take a note of that and just forward that on to the relevant department, that would be great. And if you've got any questions, we obviously have a gap potentially now between now and the next full council meeting, which could be a reasonable length of time. I think the next one is September, am I right? And so that would be potentially a long time. So if you've got any questions or comments on that, then drop me an email or for that matter, Wojciech an email, and we can maybe set up a discussion to expand on it further. Thank you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Taylor, or are you happy with that?
No, I'm happy with that.
Thank you. Okay, well, I'll go to question 7, which is from
you.
Councillor Taylor to Councillor Riddle.
Yes. Councillor Riddle, hello. Grass cutting and weeding have been quite sporadic this year. I've had a walk around some of the estates in my ward, and it's really not been good enough this year. So I'm wondering what we can do to sort it out. We've got verges which have got partially cut, but great big lengths of grass in the middle, and the weeds in some areas are like nearly a foot high, which isn't good. So can I have an assurance that this is going to be tackled, please, this year?
Councillor Riddle.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Well, I'll try and answer your question the best I can. This year we've experienced prolonged periods of rain towards the end of May, and that was followed by a great heat wave in June. This has resulted in very prolific growth of both weeds and grass. And we have 8.5 million square metres of grass to tackle each year. Getting around it obviously takes quite a long time. And with the rapid spurt in June and the fact that it grew so quickly, that's taken us longer than normal to complete the cuts, get round all our roots. We've deployed all of our grass cutting crews, but because of how long the grass was and how quickly it had grown, this has resulted in much more or longer clippings being left behind than usual. We did additional hours during June to try and catch up, and although we are now getting back onto the schedule, it is acknowledged that this took a number of weeks to achieve because of the fast growth rates. With the weeds also shooting up during June, we have also deployed teams with the weed spraying quad bikes and had additional people out on foot when the wind and weather conditions permitted. And we are making good progress with the first application. Now over 80% of the hard standing areas across the county are now complete. And what I will say as a farmer is, we use glyphosate as the weed killer, and for it to work, you actually have to have some leaf cover and weeds there because it actually destroys the root system. So, I acknowledge that whenever we do weed spraying like that, it does look a little unsightly. The action taken in June does not mean that the grass cutting is back on track, and residents should also be. It means that the grass cutting is now back on track, and residents should be seeing significant amounts of weeds dying back. I want to reassure people that the teams are doing everything that we can do to keep our towns and villages looking the best that we can, and we will continue to do so over the coming months.
Supplementary, Councillor Taylor.
We've previously used blue weed killer, so we can see where the weed killer's actually been. Is there a possibility that we can use that again? Because I think maybe they can't see where they're spraying this, and obviously local residents, when they're seeing the weeds, they're not accepting that it's been sprayed. But I think if we went back to the coloured, it would be better.
I understand what you're saying. I think what they're using is a coloured dye that you can put into the spray. I can ask officers to look at that and see if it's possible. If we think it's going to improve the public perception of what we're doing, then that would be good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Question 8 is from Councillor Hill to the leader. Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. The leader commented when he came onto the room that he heard that I was planning to not be nice to him. So there's me thinking where this is meant to be an accountable organisation. So in the spirit of being nice, dear leader, it is vitally important that an organisation such as NCC, with its size, scope of responsibilities and huge turnover of taxpayers' money, functions properly and smoothly with harmonious and constructive working relationships. Do you agree with that statement? And from 0 to 10, how do you currently score the council on this?
Thank you for that excellent question. Yes is the answer, and because of the amount of people that work for the council, I can't give a universal figure.
Supplementary, Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. I was talking generally. I wasn't asking for a marking of any particular member of staff or cabinet member, for example. And I would expect somebody who does peer reviews with the Local Government Association, I would expect a more precise answer. So the question is, just generally, on how harmonious and smooth running this council is it from, how would you score it, from 0 to 10? For the avoidance of doubt, 0 is the lowest and 10 is the highest.
Well, I would say that because the council is such a large, complex organisation with so many thousands of fantastic staff working for it, relationships in one area will be different to relationships in another area. Therefore, to try and find a mean average would be difficult, and therefore I won't enter into that one. But thanks very much for your question.
Thank you. Question 9 is from Councillor Hill to Councillor Riddle.
10 out of 10 for evading the question. To Councillor Riddle. Since the 1st of May 2017, what is the total amount NCC has spent on maintaining and running its cemeteries? How much has been received in burial fees during this time?
Thank you, Councillor Hill. I have a very precise answer for you, which has been prepared by officers. Some of the costs incurred in maintaining cemeteries sit in different budget areas, and elements such as grass cutting in some cemeteries being undertaken by integrated NEAT teams. An analysis of the 2020-21 shows the costs incurred in maintaining and running cemeteries was £628,569, and the income received was £592,980. So the net cost of running our cemeteries in 2021 was £35,589. The team are undertaking the analysis for previous years, and when this is complete, I will reply to you in writing.
Supplementary, Councillor Hill.
Thank you. I did mention to Councillor Riddle just what I was going to follow up and ask, and it was just a sort of general point. There are obviously some really long-term challenges with the cemeteries, so I'm sure we've all had residents complain about tombstones that collapsed and so on. But NCC, if it repaired one, I would have to repair them all, and there's cost. So it was just really a general question with the sort of long-term, obviously, sensitivities. Is there a sort of cemetery strategy drawn up? Do you agree that there maybe should be more work done on that, a more scrutiny, or just on the whole area of the challenges that are being posed?
What I can say, Councillor Hill, is that members are aware of the members and officers are aware of the sensitivities around death and burials, etc. And we do keep an eye on the provision and the capacity of cemeteries, etc. And the likely lifespan of them. I don't think we have any that are going to be full in the next 5 years. I think there's a couple that might be in the 5 to 10 year cycle. And as far as the likes of crematorium go, I believe there's been a planning application, if not granted already, but I think it has been actually granted already for another crematorium in the county. And of course, people also use the neighbouring ones at the likes of Consett, Durham and Newcastle, etc. So as far as that goes, I can give you that sort of reassurance that we keep an eye on that. I know that I've had a letter recently from Councillor Isabel Hunter about badgers and some damage that they're doing to undermine gravestones in Berwick, etc. So, we do try and address problems as they come up. But as you say, we can't be responsible for repairing every fallen headstone.
Thank you for that. Question 10 is from Councillor Richardson to the leader. Councillor Richardson.
I'm receiving more and more complaints from residents about the cost of parking permits, especially when the household has more than one vehicle. Would the leader consider a scheme that reduces the cost for multiple car households, and in future consider a further reduction for second or first time green car initiatives?
Thank you very much for the question. The answer is we have looked at this. Happy to look at it again. What I would say is that this county council is one of the very few councils in the country that don't charge for town centre parking. And it's going to continue like that, I hope, touch wood, because we think we need to encourage people to come to market towns, to shop locally, and it's important for visitors not to have to be inconvenienced by excessive car parking charges. So far as the disc scheme is concerned, I think it's £25 a year for one car per person, I think it is. And if we extended that, we feel it wouldn't necessarily be the answer in containing car parking in those areas where there is already a shortage of car parking. In fact, a number of other councils charge much more for a second car parking permit to try and encourage people to not use their car if they can help it, and to use public transport or walk or cycle. So I think, turning to the final part of your question about would it encourage more use of electronic vehicles if it was cheaper or it didn't cost anything, the officers have looked at this and they feel that we need to continue to do what we are currently doing, which is placing a lot more static charges in and around the county, but also to trial, which we are going to do in 7 towns, on-street car parking charges, and that way we will think, they think, and I think that we will encourage more people to invest in what are currently very expensive forms of transport, but hopefully will come down in price, especially when the batteries are made locally.
Supplementary, Councillor Richardson. Thank you very much. I go to question 11 from Councillor Nisbet to the leader.
Mine's about the home zone in Cub and Key. It's been up since about 2006 now. It was through Black Valley days. It's been a mess for a good number of years there now, trying to get it on the LTP programme, but hasn't succeeded. Despite the best efforts from the local members and residents, will the leader commit to working with me to ensure the council has a robust plan to deal with this issue and resolve it for the local residents? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. Yes is the answer. There is a long-standing litter and fly tipping problem there, and we know that that it's actually the second largest fly tipping hotspot in the county, and that's not a great tag to have. You and others have made excellent efforts for trying to deal with this. But normally it turns out, and I would include the town council, of course, in that as well, but normally they turn out to be short-term fixes. So it's been shown in other places similar to Blythe that problems like this tend to get resolved quicker when investment comes into being, when streets are tidied up. And we know that Blythe is going to be subject to significant investment over the next few years, and that will help. But in the meantime, I can commit today to saying that if you will contact Paul Jones, he will, along with the senior officers, have a visit with you and have a ward walk, which is probably the best thing to do. And that will then lead to, hopefully, some improvement. And if it doesn't, please come back to me in the next few months.
Supplementary, Councillor Nisbet.
Thanks for that, Blaine. I'll keep you to that mind, I'll tell you now. But also about the fly tipping, yes, I definitely know about that. I've been the ward councillor for 20 years now, so I understand the problems we've got. But it does really need looking at, as the home zone especially. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nisbet. I go over to question 12 from Councillor Murphy to Councillor Riddle. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Riddle, in Rotherham and other urban areas, miles of grass verges have been planted with wildflowers, and where it's safe to do so, grass has been allowed to grow. Can Councillor Riddle explain the Council's biodiversity policies and what progress the Council has made and still aims to make in light of these successes? And we understand that these don't work everywhere, and it isn't an intention to make communities untidy, but in places where it is possible, could more be considered?
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Well, I'm not familiar with Rotherham, but I'll try and answer the question for you. We aim... Have I got the right one? Yes. We aim to cut verges on the strategic road network during June and July, prioritising sight lines on junctions, etc., before then undertaking verge cutting on non-strategic verges. All cuts are between 1 and 1.5 metres wide, and we rarely undertake whole width cuts of any verge and only undertake secondary cuts on certain strategic roads and where this is necessary for visibility. The cutting of roadside verges is vital to ensure that the vegetation does not restrict both visibility for drivers, cyclists and pedestrians. And in addition to the road safety benefits, these works also improve the look of an area and keep the road network in better condition by preventing plants encroaching onto the road and also affecting the roadside drainage systems. We understand the importance of biodiversity, and we are fortunate to have verges with plant communities of particularly high conservation value in some parts of Northumberland. In recent years, we have worked with ecology and community groups, including Natural England, the North Pennines AONB and the Northumberland National Park Authority, to agree where those verges are and to delay cutting of these ecologically important verges until later in the season. The number of these verges has been increased each year in the last 4 years and now includes over 80 verges this year. Residents understandably support wildflower strips as a concept because the ones they see are vibrant and full of colour for months at a time and during the growing season. They're very pretty. These, however, are usually carefully managed floral displays that take quite a lot of maintenance, and though they can be called wildflowers because of the seed mix, they do not have the same conservation value as a natural wildflower verge. The requests we receive every year regarding verge cutting are all somewhat on the scale of between maintain everything more and leave everything to go wild and grow wild. I hope you can see from this response that though our approach is focused on the need to keep roads safe and provide amenity value, we are also increasingly maximising opportunities for nature where we can. And we will continue to work with partners to look at how we can safely and sustainably improve the ecological value of our verges going forward.
Supplementary, Councillor Murphy.
Yeah, just briefly, thank you for that. And I do think there's definitely a role for public education going forward. What we found is that Friends of the Earth, when they've done public consultation, have found that when people understand why an area might look what they perceive to be messy, that in actual fact it could be a biodiverse paradise, and it is incredibly beneficial to their area. So I think that if we are to continue this, then it has to be hand in hand with public education. Thank you.
Well, I agree with what you've said. There's a place for them, but we also have to maintain public safety. So, yeah, thank you.
Question 13, Councillor Ball to the leader. Councillor Ball.
Thanks, Chair. Members' inboxes are full of questions related to weed spraying and general street maintenance. Has the Council considered a more environmentally friendly approach, including some trial by other areas? Will the leader set out the Council's plans to tackle these issues, including the resultant staffing requirements, and assure members that short-term agency staff, which cost the taxpayer more with potentially lower standards of service, will not be used?
Thank you very much for your question. Members that were councillors last year will remember that there were proposed cuts put forward on some staffing areas, which we turned down because it is very important, I think, for all of us to make sure that we keep our streets clean, we pick up litter, we cut grass properly. So there have been no cuts in staffing. That's the first thing I would say. Secondly, Councillor Riddle has indicated that this year has been quite a difficult one to keep on top of weeds. It's been a combination of very windy and wet and then sunny and so on. So the effort has been made to keep on top of these things, but I think in some areas we haven't been as on top of it as possible, not through lack of effort, but simply because of the weather conditions that have made it very difficult for us. Turning to looking at alternatives, there are small-scale trials underway. We are looking at foam-based materials, heat, and also vinegar-based material. So we are looking at other options. So far as the staffing is concerned, we do have a core team of full-time staff. And then in the summertime, for I think it's 26 weeks, we take on seasonal workers, and that system works very well. We do use agency staff, but only when we have to, when there's sickness or when somebody has to isn't able to work. So I wouldn't want our staff to feel that we are in any way criticising the quality of work. Far from it. We have a tremendous team, and they are great ambassadors for us on the front line. This year has been particularly trying, and we have done our very best to keep on top of things. But I agree, in some places the weather has beaten us, but we will do our best to make sure we will catch up. But I can assure you that we really are doing the best we can.
Supplementary, Councillor Ball.
I'd just like to invite you, once you've finished on your tour with Councillor Kennedy around Hexham's toilets, if you would like to come across to Ashington and have a wander around some of the colliery rows where, quite frankly, some of the work so far has not been good enough. So once you've done, if you would like to come.
I'd be very happy to come. I'll come with John Riddle. And will Councillor Gallagher be around or not? If the answer is no...
Seeing my name was mentioned, I very much welcome it, and I do agree with the sentiments of my colleague. You are letting Ashington down. It's not to the standards of other places in Northumberland. You'll be very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for pushing your luck there, Councillor Gallagher. Very close to the line there. I'll go to question 14 from Councillor Dickinson to Councillor Seymour.
Thank you, Chair. Can she confirm to elected members what events she attended and the promotion she did during Pride Month in June, and what she plans to do to promote Northumberland Pride Month, obviously it's passed a little bit now, as the member responsible for that area of work within the council on members' behalf?
Councillor Seymour.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your question, Councillor Dickinson. It has only been a short time also responsible for this area of work within the council. Pride Month followed immediately on from the elections, and I'm sure that members can appreciate that during these weeks I've been getting familiar with all areas as portfolio holder. That said, I've met with key officers within my portfolio and been in attendance at all of the staff network groups that have met since appointed on the Pride plans, and we're supporting Pride Month flag waving was posted online with other staff programmes and initiatives. But as we know, there have been restrictions on events due to the COVID-19 pandemic, so I've not been able to be as active on the ground as I would have liked. Here in Northumberland, we support Pride celebrations every June and all year round too, and thank the staff for all the work they do on events and promotions. This year's Northumberland Pride is on Saturday, the 28th of August at People's Park in Ashington, and I will be doing some media to promote this event, supporting our LGBT+ community with our staff and offering to volunteer to help manage the council's stall at event.
Thanks.
I hope to further promote equality, diversity and inclusion with resources and training to be made available for all councillors that I'm working on with officers at present. Northumberland County Council promotes workplace equality and diversity. It is embedded into everything we do, from policy and practice, training, communication, data collection and specific initiatives improving the health of our staff, and to treat everyone with dignity and respect. Thank you.
Supplementary, Councillor Dickinson.
I do indeed, and hopefully it'll be a little bit more fluid because the written answers are often quite stale. In terms of Northumberland Pride, it's travelling to Ashington this year, as you rightly point out, and I'm pleased to hear you will be doing some promotional activities around that, and indeed attending the event. I think it's incredibly important that Northumberland County Council is seen at the forefront of equality, whether it be for LGBTQ communities or indeed race and others. Can she commit to further work in relation to equality across the council and ensure that there is a cross-party working group set up to look at this?
Yes, I'll speak to officers about this and get back to you.
Thank you for that. I'll go to question 15, which is Councillor Purvis to Councillor Patterson. Councillor Purvis.
Hiya. Can I ask, recently elected members have recently been reading about various issues relating to care homes and the inadequate nature of some. I must stress that the majority provide good care in Northumberland, but can you confirm how many are currently rated inadequate, and did the council have action plans around those rated as failing before the CQC rated them that way? Thanks, William.
Thank you very much, Councillor Purvis, for bringing this question today.
Can you pop your microphone on, Wendy?
I forgot about my microphone. Can you hear me now, Councillor Purvis? I think that's better. Thank you for bringing this question. Our elderly and vulnerable residents are of vital importance, so I do appreciate you speaking about this today. I'm going to read just a little bit, just so that we get this absolutely right. There are currently 100 registered residential services in Northumberland, and of those, 71 are older persons and 29 are specialist services for people with physical disabilities, learning disabilities, and people with mental health problems. With the exception of a small number of specialist services operated by the council, all services are operated by external organisations that the council has a contractual relationship with but does not directly operate. What I wanted to say on that was all of our officers work very closely with the Care Quality Commission to try and spot concerns before they escalate into something more serious. They have facilitated programmes to share the good practice of those homes rated outstanding, which have increased in number, and I'll just give you those figures in a second. Officers also run an excellence course to develop the skills and knowledge of care service managers to increase their resilience and help bring through the next generation of high-quality managers. There are plans to support Northumberland providers with the national problem of recruitment in the social care sector, which is one of the biggest challenges facing the sector. There is currently one home rated inadequate in Northumberland, and the council is supporting the home to attempt to make the required quality improvements, whilst also undertaking its safeguarding and care management functions to support the well-being of residents and to support those residents who wish to move to another alternative establishment. And I'll just give you some of the figures. 2016, we had no homes outstanding up until 2019, when we had 2. And in 2021, we now have 3 outstanding homes. We have 32 in 2016, which were good, and 57 in 2021. Requiring improvement in 2016, 23. Requiring improvement in 2021, 8. Inadequate, 1 in 2016. That rose to 2 in 2019, and it's now 1 in 2021. And we have 2 this year which have not been inspected yet. Thank you.
Supplementary.
Thanks for that long and good answer. Can you send me that in writing and
I will. In fact, I've actually got a little bit more, Councillor Purvis, but I didn't want to give you so much to think about.
I mean, it's not a supplementary, but it's just a bit of a statement. Can I ask, if and where possible, if there is any issues come up with any homes, care homes, can you try and let councillors know before the rumour mill starts and it hits the press? If you wouldn't mind.
Absolutely, I think that's very important. I do appreciate that.
Thanks.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, and that was a question, so thank you very much.
Really?
Question 16, from Councillor Wallace to Councillor Horncastle. Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Chair. Previously, administration members have made statements about reviewing local area councils' planning arrangements. Can Councillor Horncastle explain if a review is underway, and if so, what cross-party input will be given?
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. I think this question has come on the back of an announcement made by the leader on the 26th of May when he mentioned a possible review of the LACs. But I think he was mainly referring to the non-planning part of the LACs. But the LAC planning will remain as it is, with perhaps a bit of fine-tuning, things like more support to chairs and that sort of thing. But it's not proposed to have any changes at the moment. So, cross-party. Well, at the moment, Councillor Castle is who chairs the LAC Chairs Group, which it has got Labour members. I'm not sure if it's got independent or Liberal members in there, maybe vice chairs, I'm not sure about. But certainly through the LAC Chairs Group, they are having some discussions about that now. And but if we're talking cross-party, you've got to talk to everybody. But if the Liberal and Independent members aren't involved in that, then don't forget that there's 67 members here, and I'm more than happy for anyone to contact me, phone me, email me, stop me in County Hall and tell me what their views are. And their views will be totally confidential. And I would obviously take them on board. But further down the line, there will be proper cross-party input if there is any changes to be made through scrutiny process. That will be the communities in place scrutiny. So the other thing where you can do it cross-party is speak to your planning chairs. Everybody's a part of a LAC, you can speak to your planning chairs. That will be fed into the LAC chairman's groups. But I do welcome the question, because I have some views of my own about what we could do, but those views aren't relevant to your question, so that's for another day. But so go back to the gist of your question. The review of LACs will not have much of an impact on the planning side, and cross-party, there's ways of doing it.
Thank you. Supplementary, Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Chair. I think after 16 questions, you'll be pleased to hear I don't have a supplementary.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go on to the next part of the agenda then, which is, and thank you for all your questions, is item 7, to receive the minutes of the Cabinet meeting held on Tuesday the 8th of June 2020 to 2020. I'll start again. Tuesday 8th of June 2021, and see pages 23 to 32. Councillor Dale.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yeah, I never know with these machines whether you can hear it or not, where from. Can I just refer you to the, the number 3, the report of the Interim Director of Finance and Section 151 Officer? And I just wondered also, at number F, the Cabinet note the balance of 5.3 million remaining, but under there we've got the underspend from reserve for one-off costs relating to the transfer of staff and services to the Council as a result of the NHS partnership agreement ceasing in 30 September 2021. I've had a lot of residents who've contacted me about this, and actually I didn't know the whole story. I haven't still got a paper on it, so I just wonder if we could have a paper on this so all members could be aware of actually what is actually going on. And secondly, just for information and question actually, also on page 55, which is actually not minuted, but it's in the actual report, on number 14, which basically is, sorry, it's number 13. It's about the underspend of £0.618 million in relation to the street lighting replacement and modernisation programme. And you will recall on May the 19th, May the 1st, I think it was 2 years ago, we had a pink paper on this modernisation programme. And one of the questions was that Councillor Sanderson requested that the Audit Committee look into this replacement programme and see what the failings were, because obviously the vast amount of money that it was costing. So I have not yet seen a copy of that audit report, and I don't even actually think there is one yet. And I think that is something that if the leader requests an audit, that it should be undertaken. So could I just ask two things? Basically, a request for a paper on the programme, the cease of the programme, NHH partnership, but also to ensure that we do get a report on the Audit Committee on the programme for the lighting and modernisation programme.
Yes, can you let me look at that? I'm just looking at the if anyone on the Audit Committee has actually had this through the Audit Committee. If not, will you leave it with me and we will look at that?
Well, I mean, it is now 2 years, so, you know, it would be, I think, if Audit can't manage it, then maybe somebody else could look at it, please.
And just on your first point, Councillor Dale, there's a paper coming to the Cabinet on the 3rd of August in relation to the point you raised.
And will that be dealing with staffing matters too?
Yes, it will be. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I've got Councillor Ezel-Shelvin.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Thank you. I'm referring to section 4.4, where it says section 106 funds have been sanctioned, about 570K. And then also the first tranche of the meeting, first tranche of that fund had been approved as well. So it's very good news. So I am just reminding whether it's possible to that we have a Cramlington Cycleways program already completed, not completed, partly completed. Would the money be going into to completely complete that, completely complete that program? It's partly done. It doesn't look that well. So yeah, full completion of that program will be very good.
Thank you for that, Councillor Ezel-Shelvin. I can say that that money is relating to the development there, but I am absolutely sure that there are plans in terms of the cycle network in Cramlington. I don't know, and the leader is nodding. So yes, we need to see an excellent cycle network there. I totally agree.
Thank you.
Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you, Chair. Just on page 25E, third point down where it refers to the top-up of the social fund for unspent hardship funding for working age council tax support claimants 21-22. I just wondered if that meant that because of the rise in claimants or working claimants that there wasn't enough in the pot already, or whether that was required due to kind of the influx from COVID. I wasn't sure if anybody could clarify. If not, I'm happy to get something from section 151 after.
Councillor Wearmouth, do you wish to?
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. I think we'll write to you just to make sure that we've got it right, but I think that that relates to some additional relief that was provided to particular people. We'll get a written answer for you, though. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more points to raise there? I can't see them, so I'm going to do what I always forget to do. Can we approve those minutes? Agreed. Agree those minutes. Okay, so point 8 is to receive and consider minutes from the following committee, and it's just the one, Health and Wellbeing Overview and Scrutiny. I pass over to Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Chair. I just move the minutes of the Health and Wellbeing Overview and Scrutiny Committee held on the 15th of June, pages 33 to 40.
(2021). It says page 41 to 42, but I think it's just page 41. 42 is blank. Do we receive those? Great. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to go over to point 10 on the agenda, which is motions. And I've had some pre-discussion with Councillor Dickinson on this. And would you like to address the meeting, Councillor Dickinson?
Yeah. I'm happy to defer, and I've already written to Democratic Services to say we'll defer it to September so we can iron out some wording and have some cross-party agreement.
Thank you very much for that. And in the spirit of hands across the table and such like, I think we'll be fully agreeing on getting something that is agreeable to everyone. Thank you very much for that. It's much appreciated. Point 11 on the agenda is report of the business chair, which is me. Proposal to appoint independent co-opted chair of audit committee. Further to the announcement by the leader of county council at the meeting of full council on 26th of May that the authority would move to establish an independent co-opted chair of audit as soon as possible. This report proposes the relevant changes required to the constitution to enable an independent co-opted chair of audit committee to be appointed, together with information on steps taken to expedite the appointment. And that is, I've got page 47 to 54. I just present that to the council and ask that we agree the recommendations. Thank you very much. Yeah, I've also got a reference to the addendum report, which I've got here. And the recommendation, the council is recommended, subject to council's agreement of the recommendation in the earlier report for item 11 of the council agenda, to appoint Mr Stephen Watson as independent co-opted chair of audit committee for a period of 2 years from the date of the council decision on this matter. Do we agree that report? Agreed. Thank you very much. Okay, and we'll go to the next item on the agenda.
Chair, could I?
Yes, sorry.
Sorry, can I just ask a question on? It was just to Glenn, really, just to confirm that the process of selection was based on the letter that the leaders received.
Sorry, could you?
Sorry, it was just on the appointment of the independent chair for audit. We received a letter to leaders to outline in the process. I just wanted to make sure that had been followed, that's all.
Yes, it did. It was advertised and there was a selection process in which the chair of council and officers were involved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So I'll go to item 12 on the agenda, which is report of the section 151 officer purchase of shares in Northumberland Enterprise Holdings Limited. And I think, is it Jan Willis or Richard? You are leading on this.
Thanks. To be honest, I'm happy to hand over to Jan if she prefers to summarise it, but happy to talk if not. I see we're joined by Jan by satellite, or in fact, she's around the room.
Yes. I'm here, Chair, if you would like me just to give a brief introduction to the report, and if everyone can hear me.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, so members may recall that back at the June Cabinet, a reserve of £300,000 was created in order to provide start-up funding for Northumbria Enterprise Holdings Limited, which is the parent company for what is planned to be a group of companies to undertake various trading activities. So the 300,000 is going to be effected by way of the purchase of shares in the company. I have considered alternatives, but decided that that is the most effective way to make this investment. And that requires council approval because the purchase of shares is a capital transaction, and we therefore need council's approval for the share purchase and to add the £300,000 to the capital programme to fund that purchase. But as I've already said, the 300,000 has already been set aside in a reserve which has been created by applying surpluses that have already been generated on international consultancy activity of about 466,000 up to the end of the last calendar year. So effectively what we are doing is reinvesting 300,000 of those accumulated surpluses in order to provide some start-up and working capital funding for the company going forwards. We do have a detailed cash flow forecast which supports this figure, and there will be a further report coming to Cabinet at its next meeting, dealing with some of the more detailed governance issues and approvals that are required to give effect to this, because even after Council have given their approval to add this to the capital programme and for the Council to purchase the shares, there is still approvals needed, including the shareholder representatives' approval and now board approval for the actual issue of the shares from the company side. So this is just the first step in that process, and I've said there will be a much more detailed report coming to Cabinet dealing with the other matters in a few weeks' time. So I'm very happy, Chair, if members have any questions on the report, to take those.
Okay, do we have any questions? Councillor Hill.
Just checking, we're just noting a report, we're not agreeing anything at this stage.
I believe, if I'm correct, the recommendations are at point 2. Members are requested to note the report, approve the purchase by the Council of shares, capital, and then any H. Can you read those? We've got those. And then point 3, A, B and C on that.
Chair, can I just move the recommendations as written, Chair?
I'll
Can
come into Councillor Dale, because she did have her hand up, then I'll come.
Sorry. Sorry, thank you. Can I just ask, because I have concerns, because obviously we've had Arch, we've had Advance, and really what I wanted to ask, Jan, was about the governance of the shareholder. So the things that have happened in the past aren't allowed just to be, or disappear or go underneath the carpet, because there's vast cost to the council, and the taxpayers have lost a tremendous amount of money that could actually be spent on highways, everything you can possibly think of. And I really want to make sure that the governance, again, around the shareholder responsibilities are very sound, so we can't have any repeat of anything that happened before, because this has been brought up with me over and over again. And also, so it would be very good if we could have that full report to come to council, please.
Okay, we got.
Jan, I don't want you to, you don't have to respond now. I just want to see that we all have a copy of the report, please.
Sorry, Chair, I'm not sure. Do you want me to respond to Councillor
Well,
Dale?
I can come in here. I'm being told by the Chief Executive that this is going to the 3rd of August as well. So
sorry, I can't hear
this is
you.
going to the 3rd of August Cabinet as well, Councillor Dale.
Thank you. Well,
So-
as long as we will all see that, and then we can discuss it later if we have any problems.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be in the minutes, I would have thought, from after that meeting.
Thank you.
So, Councillor Reid.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just move the recommendations, but I just wanted to say that some of the comments that were made by previous contributors are completely incorrect. Arch and Advance have not lost or cost this council millions of pounds or lots of money. They've always paid the debt that they are owed. Every time, not one interest payment has ever been missed. Now, the companies themselves might have done some things that they shouldn't have done.
Absolutely.
But none of that cost is washed up on the shores of the council. It couldn't have been spent on anything else other than it was. So I move the recommendations as written, Chair.
Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. I hope we're not going to debate Arch, because
Yeah,
we're
I
going to
hope
miss
so
the
as well.
World Cup as well as everything. And I would take issue. I'd be very interested to know what the asset valuation is compared to how much it owes the council. I'm just going to abstain on this because I didn't see the paper before, and I just don't like to agree something I haven't read before. So if it's noted somewhere that I'm abstaining on this, just on that basis.
Okay, so we've moved, the recommendation's been moved, it's been seconded by Councillor Sanderson, am I correct? Yeah. So we'll move, are we in agreement of that? Agreed. Thank you very much for that. So I go on to point 13 of the agenda, which is honorary alderman, and I'm going to pass to Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you very much. This is hopefully going to be discussed at the next council meeting. I just simply wanted to say this is about recognising members who have served for a long time, and we are currently working up the criteria for this, and officers will come forward with the report, and I will share it with group leaders and would welcome their input. For myself, I feel you know, you think of names like Dave Ledger, Ian Swithenbank, Anthony Murray. These are the kind of people who have served for a long time with great distinction, and we need to recognise that. But I also think we should also consider those amongst the community who have also done great service for our county and recognise them as well. So rather than rush this, I would rather just try and work up some criteria and discuss this together. Hopefully in September, the September Council.
Councillor Reid, I noticed you had your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that, Leader. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. I do think that we need to be thinking about how we can honour people, and it's not just members of the public, it's also officers that need to be considered in this. Although the aldermanship is obviously only for ex-members of the council, but it would be sort of the freemen of the county, all sorts of things. So if we are going to have a proper discussion about, you know, awarding of merit, that would be really helpful and handy. But do remember that this organisation is only 12 years old, so you will be counting back to previous. And some of us were mightily rewarded for our service to the district councils that we're on. I think there will be several freemen in the room, you know, and the aldermen too. So you do need a balance. And I think the people you're talking about, that's absolutely fine. But you are going to have to take in the service that they gave the authorities that came together to form this one. And so I look forward to reading the report. But we do sometimes forget that it was an amalgamation of 7 councils. It was not the takeover of 6 districts by 1 county council. It was actually a merger of the 7. So let's not get ourselves too carried away.
Councillor Hutchinson, I think was indicating.
Thank you, Chair. The Civic Head always has a dinner and entertains entertains aldermen. And over the years, the number of aldermen are diminishing. So I think it's a great idea to bring this back on again. You know, people die, we're losing them. So let's top it up. Thanks.
You always have such a way with words, don't you? Right. Councillor Dickinson.
On a more youthful, cheery note, those of us who are a little bit younger maybe don't look at it as death, but in terms of the free people of Northumberland and the honorary aldermen, all these things, I think echo some of the points of Councillor Reid around members and officers and other people who've given incredible amounts, not only during COVID, but, you know, for a long period of time. So, like Jeff, welcome the discussion around how we make a framework that fits. But unlike Councillor Hutchinson, I'm not close to death, hopefully.
I hope none of us are.
On that note, I think we've done that item to death. No. So, 14. Exclusion of press and public, part 2 of the meeting. Council is invited to consider passing the following resolution on point A and point B. Do we pass that resolution to remove the public and press from this meeting? Great.
Can we just let Lynn Grimshaw back in? I don't know where she went.
Oh, of course, yes. Yes. I'm sure there'll be a